Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Slaanesh and Nurgle here on the Dunes of Cain. It's going to be myself with T'Challa facing off against the Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle, who's going to be on his Rot Beast, and we're going to be bringing a very wild build. Now, we have two devotees of Slaanesh with the crossbows to try and surprise Nurgle. They won't be expecting ranged from Slaanesh, so let's bring them in and let's have some fun. So we got two of them. I still think, objectively, they're a really terrible unit, but man, they're going to be fun. So we got two of those, and we do also have the Pleasure Guard. Pleasure Guard against Nurgle, I think, could be actually quite good. Because Nurgle, of course, has very good quality infantry, and these guys are incredibly fast. They do magic damage, so that makes them a counter against the Plague Bearers. They hit hard, huge bonus versus infantry, and I think they do have the Unyielding Assault as well, which means their melee attack cannot be afflicted. So, pretty cool piece. Now, T'Challa, I always say that wrong, T'Challa probably, is a little bit of a risky pick in matchups in which your opponent has Spirit Leech effect. So if you're playing a faction that has a Spirit Leech effect or has a Rancid Visitations, very risky to bring either this character or the Mask. However, you know, I think that she's going to be able to put in some work potentially with her. Oh, somebody did that on purpose. 69 melee attack. I mean, come on. But basically, I have the Dance of Destruction, which is a damage augment, and then I do also have the Whirlwind of Pleasure, which is pretty good against Nurgle. Big AoE magic damage punishment spell. Couple Slangors for Vanguard, some Horsemen, and that's it. Now, for my opponent's build, Pestigors in the front, Nurglings on the flanks. We have a Chaos Sorcerer of Death with Spirit Leech and Buna. Battletoads, Barons of the Bog with the Bog, da bang, diggy, diggy. These guys will be quite good against my infantry with magic damage, anti-infantry, and armor piercing. And then a bunch of Plague Bearers. And the Unholy Hand Grenades are actually quite good against Slaanesh. If you can catch like a Greater Demon or any character slipping, you can basically bring them to half health instantly. So, obviously, Pestigors are going to be losing to Slangors. Slangors are more designed for this type of situation. They are anti-infantry, and they have the Fizz Res. So you can see it's a pretty good fight for us here. But the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle is going to be moving in, so we need to call in some Horsemen to help out. They will be coming in, and will she be denied once again the kill? So we do pop the abilities, the Dance of Destruction. 700 weapon strength is pretty savage, and a big contact there with the Sorcerer is going to be forcing it back. In the front, the Pleasure Guard do clash with the Pestigors, and you can see they're getting ripped to shreds really, really badly by the Furious Slaanesh Onslaught here. Those snakes are really freaking cool. The spin attacks look really neat. So they are able to rip and tear through the Nurgle infantry, but the Nurgling's going to be collapsing on the back. And actually, we forced his Toads back. We were talking in I was, oh my god, I almost said Ventrilo. I was like, oh, we were chatting Ventrilo. What is this, like 2008 or whatever? But the devotees of Slaanesh are, they pop out, and he was like, what the hell are those bows? So the devotee's going to be shooting into the Toads here and potentially doing some damage, but he keeps microing back and running here. On this side, Slangors engaging versus Plague Bearers. And now the denied one is going to be moving in, but I did not see this. I was not paying attention. The Exalted Plague Bearers immediately are like, oh, hey, that's a free kill right there. So the hand grenades get into my Lord, and they're going to start doing a bunch of damage if they connect. You can see some of them do connect there. Thankfully, the Toads and I think some of the Slangors did block those, but still taking a lot of HP damage. And yeah, now the other one's coming in from the side, and there it is. Oh, God. And at that point, I was like, did I just lose this? I think I might have. So we're going to be running away and trying to get away from the Nurgle Lord while the crossbows try and chase off the Toads. On this side, Slangors battling Plague Bearers. Plague Bearers will win that fight, but, you know, probably not the worst trade for the Slangors. Fated Buna activated on one of my devotees, and the champions of Slaanesh are going to be retreating away from the glorious hordes of Nurgle here, as Nurgle does posture up on Objective 1 with its Plague Bearers, Slangors waiting in the wings, and the crossbows are shooting into the Festering Stooges. Now, one thing I think about the devotees, when you look at their missile profile, I'm fairly certain that Shades, when they shoot, they have two volleys of ammunition, or two shots when they shoot, essentially, whereas the devotees only have one. So I think that explains why their DPS is so much worse than the Shade. Obviously, I think they have worse missile strength, too. I'd have to take a look at that. But anyways, we do have Objective 2 and Objective 3. Nurgle very, very confident after bullying my hero here. So I want to keep T'Challa alive as long as possible to try and just get a little bit more value out of that character. On the back, Chaos Sorcerer are going to be called in, and we're just going to be trying to hold it down here. Marauder Horsemen getting good throwing javelins into the Pestigors and the Plague Bearers. Obviously, these guys have 4 capture weight apiece, and the infantry being heavily diminished are going to have less capture weight. Plague Bearers lurking on the high ground while my devotees of Slaanesh continue shooting at the Festering Stooges and tickling their pickles. Not really doing much damage at all, but, you know, they look kind of cool, I guess. I mean, I don't know, they just look like regular Dark Elves, but, you know, it's cool to see them in the Slaanesh roster. Very, very fun. You know, they've gone all in. So Festering Stooges is going to be creeping over there, and the champions of Slaanesh worked all the way around here, and now the Pleasure Guard are going to be jumping on the Stooges. Now, this is a Really good trade for me. The Pleasure Guard are going to be battering into these guys and really, really punching through their defenses. Granted, the Stooges will give back a little bit. They're no joke, and we're going to need a big Pit of Shades to turn the dynamic of the fight. While the denied one, Takala is going to be waiting, getting ready to come in. Huge overcasted Pit of Shades going to be activated here, which is going to be hitting those Festering Stooges right in their smelly faces. And they do get it. It also hits the Battletoads. Don't know what kind of damage it's going to be doing there, but apparently pretty good. Yep, so Festering Stooges getting pounded, and the Barons of the Bog with the Bog also getting it. And the denied one now going to be moving in, so let's see what she's capable of here. Let's actually just see some of the attack animations as she does pop in. Look, she's fighting with her snake homies. That's great. All right, so she takes down one of the Stooges there. Yep, sends him flying. Looking pretty neat in the process. Barons of the Bog debuffing my stats pretty heavily, but I think the Pleasure Guard actually, yeah, they can't be debuffed as much because they have the Unyielding Assault, which is kind of neat. So looking around the battlefield, we do have our crossbows shooting, and on this side, I missed the charge, guys, but I called in Pleasure Seekers, and they basically killed the Plague Bearer unit. And we're able to get away. Sitting at 500 value right now. They did get afflicted by a Fate of Buna, so the Pleasure Seekers are now going to be sweeping across. A pretty good unit. Very squishy, but I think that they're going to be used for sure. But yeah, time will tell. They might have a similar issue to the old Seekers with their hitbox, but I need to do a little bit more testing with them. They are 2,000 gold after all, or 1,800, so very, very pricey. Up in the sky, Furies on Furies, but my Furies, normally Slaanesh Furies do lose the Nurgle Furies, but his were more beat up, and I did use a Melkost to try and win that fight. Crossbow's still very much online, and Nurgle does call in the spawn of Nurgle and the Plague Drones to try and help out, and we are able to stabilize on this point. And over here we do get the Nurglings coming in, but this is what Slaanesh is all about. If you're playing Nurgle against Slaanesh, you never want to split push like this. You always want to like consolidate your forces and just play to where you're strong. If you try and split like this, they just pick you off with fast units, and you can't really respond. So the Pleasure Seekers are going to be getting their charge, and here come the Boob Snakes. So they will be piling in. We're going to be seeing those Nurglings get cooked really, really bad. But the Nurglings and the Furies might be able to win the 2v1, considering that the Pleasure Seekers are very low, and they only have 30 armor, so they might go down. But they're putting up a good fight, and the Chaos Sorcerer is going to be coming over to help. Takala, the denied one, trying to stay alive here, sitting at 1337 HP. Oh, dude, epic. And another Pit of Shades just absolutely punishing this Nurgle army. They've really been having a bad time with that. Now, one of Nurgle's least favorite things to fight against in this matchup, I can tell you as somebody who's played this matchup 1,000 times in tournaments, is the Bringers of Beguilement. These things annihilate pretty much all the Nurgle infantry. Now, obviously, they do have their weaknesses. One of the counters to them, I guess, or soft counter would be like a Toad, but they just have such good general stats that honestly, they can still like beat those things down. It's a really, really hard unit for Nurgle to deal with, but that's why Fate of Buna is so good here. So he's going to have the Buna, and the Pleasure Seekers did end up getting defeated, but not before they did good enough damage to allow my forces to stabilize the point. Over here on the other side, objective number 2 is held down by Nurgle, and here we do see Plague Bearers out there. The dreaded Devotees, I was like, yeah, they're coming now. They get to show off their melee stats, so they're going to be running forward with their dual weapons and trying to cut these guys up, while Slangor is moving in with their 55 movement speed, are going to be circling around on the point, and we should be able to capture that one. Nurgle, obviously, very, very slow, and it's tricky for them to keep up with the Slaaneshi forces. Some maps, this is actually a decent map for Nurgle. Like, if you had Kugath sitting between the point or an Exalted Great Unclean One, Slaanesh could really have huge problems. And a Toad Dragon, honestly, I think is pretty good against Slaanesh. Slaanesh in general is pretty mediocre against big targets. Like, their answers are these shitty crossbows, which would not be effective at all. They do have the Soul Grinder and their characters and their Greater Demon Scan, but, you know, getting and fighting Nurgle up close is exactly what they want, right? Alright, so Horsemen chilling, out of ammunition. We'll be activating them soon, and here comes the Bringers of Beguilement, so they're going to be slamming into these Nurgle forces. They had the wrong charge order, but those Plague Bearers in the front will pay the Troll Soul as they immediately get ripped to shreds. Only having a couple left, wavering and disintegrating right now. On this side, the crossbows running away from the Plague Drones, while some of the Devotees, I believe, were engaged by the Chaos Spawn. Weapon strength is only 34, so really against things that aren't infantry, probably not going to be having the best time. The denied one going to be cruising back in here, while the Bringers of Beguilement are going to be finishing off these Nurgle demons, which have been hanging out for a long time. I mean, man, these Stooges have eaten like an overcasted Pit of Shades, a bunch of arrow fire. They've been very, very good this game. But regardless, the middle objective is going to be flipping, and it looks like there's going to be some Harry Potter going down here. I think that's a Fate of Buna on the Bringers of Beguilement, which is going to hurt pretty bad, probably will lead to their demise. But the Bringers going to move across, go after the Plague Bearers, looking at value trading. It's pretty close, 9.2 against 8.9. I do have the objective advantage, though, which is huge. And that is one of the ways that Nurgle can often trade evenly with Slaanesh, but then they can lose out on objectives. Yeah, you need that Greater Demon, man, that big, unclean Chungus. But I'd be curious how he would play against some of the new Slaaneshi tools, like Pleasure Seekers, things like that. Probably be all right. So Takala in the fight, but is going to get bullied here a little bit. Is very, very low, and now she's going to be trying to escape. So she's going to be rolling through. the massive plague hordes of Nurgle have gotten in, and it is time for her to flee and get karate chopped. So, denied, glory once again, but still she had a run. If I didn't blunder her earlier, maybe it would be a little bit better at hunting these characters, as my opponent does call on Kha'Zix the Befouled. So Kha'Zix, a great character. He's very, very strong, and a good assassin, and honestly just good against most things. Objectives 3 belong to myself. Objectives 1 belong to Slaanesh as well, and objective number 2 belongs to Slaanesh, but it's in flux. However, I think that we do have enough units here, and look at that, the devotees getting in, cutting up the plague bears. They're actually doing something, and the Slangor is fighting it out here. Looking at the value, I do fall behind a little bit, but it doesn't really keep in mind all of the various disintegrating effects, right? Like the demonic disintegration. Like, this is a lot of value on these plague bears, and the other plague bears that just straight up isn't being tracked. So middle's looking a little bit dodgy. We do see Forsaken coming up, and I'm just going to keep the Slangors out here and move back the devotees, because I started to see there was a big value gap coming. And Nurgle, they don't really have much healing. The Festering Stooges, of course, heal. Here we do see Pestigors coming out, and you'll notice I'm saving up again, and we are going to be getting Pleasure Seekers. Pleasure Seekers are really, really good at killing these, like just anything, really. In an isolated situation like this, that 100 movement speed, the magic damage, not relevant against Pesties, but you're going to see these Pestigors get taken to Pound Town pretty damn badly. Alright, Slangors fighting it out. We do see the Slangors over here hanging, and here comes the old Pleasure Seeker. So they're going to be moving in. Here they come. Yes, the snakes getting in and getting a big old charge right there. And you can see the Pestigors getting melted really, really quickly, but that's what you would expect from like a 2,000 gold cav unit, right? Melkoth's activated on the Furies to try and slow them down a little bit, and the Boob Snakes are able to cut through the Furies and the Pestigors pretty effectively, though taking some damage in the process. On the other side, the Slangor is going to be retreating, and Nurgle is going to be coming over here. So the next Gambit is probably going to be calling in the Exalted Demonettes again to try and keep that in check. But here, we also have the opportunity to rotate to the middle, as the Pleasure Seekers did their job. Value on them, about 1,800, but they've been summoned twice, so they haven't quite paid for themselves yet, but they're getting to that ballpark. On this side, Nurgle Plague Bear is going to be moving in as the devotees of Slaanesh. They have pretty high leadership base, I think. Let's go ahead and check. 75 base is pretty good, and they do have ITP, of course, but there's no terror here for Nurgle anyway, so not that would matter. Slangors, hanging in there. A couple of them, I don't know why they're banners over here in the main units here. I guess I tried to run away and it didn't work out, but we are going to grab this objective. And Nurgle basically, even if they just started winning all these fights, wouldn't have the tools they need to get the objectives quick enough, probably in this situation, as the Pleasure Seekers are going to be chilling. We do see the Chaos Sorcerer and Kha'Zix waiting and watching over here to engage, and I don't know if they have enough for another Buna, but now that the Bunas are gone, I can start kind of relaxing a little bit. Right here, we're going to be casting a Pit of Shades, but unfortunately my unit broke right as I casted it, so they're going to be surging forward. And the Slangor is going to be getting in. The Pit of Shades is going to be catching some of the monster stuff in the back, but really not doing much. As the Pleasure Seekers now going to be screaming across. And for our call-in here, I think we're saving up for something bigger. I can't quite remember. Slangor is so incredibly good. They're able to come over, and honestly, Slangors will beat anything short of a Chaos Warrior, probably, on the Nurgle roster. I don't know about a Plague Bear. I think a Plague Bear would beat them. But they would be able to beat, like all the chaff-centric units, so including Pestigors, which isn't bad. And they're fast, too, so they can dictate their engagements, which is very, very nice. Pleasure Seekers getting a nice rear charge here, and they do magic damage, a really good counter against the Plague Drone units. And they're going to be ripping apart these Forsaken. Oh my god, that one Forsaken got yeeted off the screen, as they say. And that just starts to fold up the position. Nurgle coming in with its Plague Bears, but 1,400 points. Couple Forsaken are going to be creeping on their way in. But the Nurgle forces actually take such casualties here that they're not going to be able to recover from that. And we do have the Bringers of Beguilement coming from across the map. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it. GG, well played. And yeah, that's a really, I brought a meme build. He brought a fun build too. Obviously, you would never bring these crossbows. They did okay, 1,000 and 1,200. Maybe, is there a way to justify them against the greater Nurgle demons, right? Would they do enough damage, or would they just get shrugged off? Dakala feels like one of the weaker choices of the new stuff. I think the Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh on the Snake, as well as the Mask, are just way better. But perhaps there will be situations, because Dakala does have 7,000 HP. It's relatively high HP. And it is a very good assassin. Hits incredibly hard. Champions of Slaanesh did fine. The crossbows did pay for themselves, but I can't help but think if I spent that 1,100 gold on, Exalted Demonettes or something better, I don't know, hard to say. I really want them to be good. And for the rest of the forces here, only 400 value. I could have sworn they did more than that. Pit of Shades are pretty good, and the Boob Snakes got 2,500 there. And for the Nurgle army, it was honestly not bad. Probably you just cut the Plague Drones. Plague Drones are pretty bad in that matchup in my experience. One of them did get 900 value, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Plague Drones. And then, yeah, you need the Mortis Engine to punish the Slaanesh forces, because The Great Unclean One on a small map is just such punishment to Slaanesh. So Slaanesh has to work really hard to beat it. Although it can be killed. And maybe the new crossbows and the horsemen and even an assassin character like this could do something. Hard to say. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. That's it for tonight, and we will see you all on the other side.